Timotab, and today I'm going to solve most squares by henter. If you would like to try solving this puzzle for yourself, it'll be the first link in the description. Let's have a look at the rules. Normal Sudoku rules apply. So we're going to place the digits 1 to 9 once each in every row, every column, and every box. Digits on a line sum to the square of the largest digit on that line. So if, say, the 4 were the largest digit on this line, then these 3 cells would have to sum to 16. Okay, I am going to restart the puzzle to reset the timer, and let's begin. Well, actually thinking about that, if 4 were the largest digit on that line, then these two, if this were the 4, these two sums would have to sum to 12, but the maximum digit they could be is 4, which is only 7. So it can't be a 4 on here. If there's a 3, I could get to 9 with 3 3s, but the geometry isn't going to allow for that. So 2 must be the largest digit with a sum of 4, which has to be 1, 2, and 2 1s. So that's a 2, that's a 1, and that's a 1. Okay. Where do I want to look next? All right. Can I have a 9 on this line? If I have a 9 on it, then I could have 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, which is 35, plus 2 9s, which would be 53. So even if I had a 9 on it, the highest I could get is 53, so therefore it can't be as high as 64, so it can't have an 8 on it. Can it have a 7 on it? 7, 6, 5, 4, 3 would be 25, plus 2 7s would be 39. So I can't have a 7 on it. Can I have a 6 on it? 6, 5, 4, 3, 2 would be 12 plus, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, is 20, there we go, plus 2 6s, which is another 12, which is 32, which is not the 36 required. Okay, so this is a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 line. That gives me 15, and then I need 2 digits here that sum to 10 to get to 25 without using digits larger than 5, so those must both be 5s. That makes this a 5 by the geometry, and that is a 1, 2, 3, 4 set. Okay. Can I have a 9 on this line? So those 4 digits could be 6, 7, 8, 9, which is 30. If I make that a 6, then I can make this 7, 8, 9, which is 24. That gives me 54. I'm aiming for 81. Another 24 here would be 78. So no, I can't have a 9 on this line. So that has to be a 9. This now has to be 6, 7, 8. So this line has to be 64. Let's see. So the maximum I can have here, given I can't put a 5 on it, is actually 8 and 4. I can only use one of those 2 digits. Because if I put an 8 on here, that then becomes a 6, 7 pair. So if that were 8 and 4, that would make that 8. That would make the largest this could be is 7 and 4. So that's 12 plus 11. So 21 plus 12 is 33, plus 11 is 44. So these need to be 20 in 3 digits without a 9. That would have to be 785. So this is at least 785, but I can't put a 5 on it. So this is 678. So now I have 1 degree of freedom. So I had 7-4 plus 8-4 on there. I could make one of the 7s a 6, or I could make the 4 a 3. Okay, but I definitely have an 8 in one of those two, so that can't be an 8. Okay. These digits are 2, 3, 4, 5, and 9, with those not being 2. That is going to be, well, so that's 21, that's 22, so this is 23, because we know the sum of the box is 45. So that's 23. We're aiming for 81. That leaves 58. And the maximum I can get on here is 30. So that gives me 2 degrees of freedom. So they're from 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Ugh. Oh, clear that one. That's not 5 or 9. That's not a 5. Those aren't 5s. I have a virtual 6, 7, 8 triple here. So those aren't from 6, 7, or 8. Um, 4 and 5, if that were 4 and 5, that would be too many degrees of freedom using. So one of those is a 9, so I know I have to have a 9 on there, so that's not a 9. What about down here? I have a virtual 6, 7, 8 triple there. That's not 6, 7, or 8. And again, one of those is going to have to be a 9, so that's not a 9. Okay. Okay. In this row, where do 1 and 2 go? I can't put a 1 and 2 there. The only 2 possible places for 1 and 2 are in those 2 spots. So that's a 1-2 pair. Can I do the same in this column? No, because I can't eliminate 2 from there. All right. So this line, if I had, so I can repeat those digits there. So I could get 9876 twice, which would be 30, which would be 60. That's clearly not enough to make 81. It's also not enough to make 64. So 7 is my new putative highest candidate. So 6543 is 18. Twice is 36, and so that would be exactly it. 5, 4, 3, 2 would be 14 twice is 28. So that gives me 3 degrees of freedom. And so it could be a 5. 1, 2, 3, 4 twice would be 20, which is more than the 16, but I have no flexibility to reduce anything by anything. So this is a 5 or a 6 line. And 6, 5, 4, 3. Do I have to have a 5 on there? Wait. That can't be a 5. Okay, there's definitely a 5 on here. That's interesting, because that uses up one of my degrees of freedom. Right. Right. If I have 5, right. I have to have at least one 5 on this line in order for that to be the highest digit, assuming we're going for the 25 sum. So, do I have to have both? If I have 5, 4, 3, 2, that's 21. Sorry, that's 14. 5, 4, 3, 2 is 14. If I don't have a 5 on here, that's 10, and that's 24. So I have to have 2 5s on here. That's important because that removes 5 as a candidate here. Because if this is highest 6, then it has to be 3, 4, 5, 6 on both the horizontal and the vertical. So there is definitely a 5 on here if this is the 36 sum. And if it's a 25 sum, then there has to be a 5 on each arm. So that can't be a 5, and we've already seen that that can't be a 5. But that places a 5 onto one of those two. And that takes away my 2 degrees of freedom that I had. Therefore, I can't put a 4 on here. These both have to be 5, 7, 8, 9. So that's a 5, 9. That is 6, 7, 8. That is 5, 9. And that is 7, 8. Okay. So if that's 7, 8, that becomes a 6. That makes that 7 and that 8. 8 now comes out of here, and so does 7, but making the 7 the 6 is my 1 degree of freedom that I had. So that's not a 3. This is not 6 or 7, and that's not a 3. I have 21, 42, 52, 64. That looks good. That 4 is looking up there. That's not a 4. That's 1, 2, or 3. And that one's not a 1. All right, this 8 is looking down here. That's a 7. That is an 8. All right. Let's have another look at this. So these are from 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6 as a simple start. That's not a 1. That's not 1 or 2. In fact, none of those are 1s. That's not a 1 or a 2. That's not a 2. Okay. So if this is 25, then I have no 6 in here, and that means that those 4 digits in the row and these 4 digits in this column are made up from 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That then, between them, gives me a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 quintuple in the column and the row. So that's a total of 30 in those 10 digits. But I need to make the ones on the line add up to 25. And that means the ones off the line have to add up to 5. So that would be 3 and that would be 2. Now, is that going to be a problem? So if that's a 2, this is 1, 3, 4, 5, which is 13. And if that's a 3, this is 1, 2, 4, 5, which is 12, and that's 25. And so that works. But I think I'd be able to place a bunch of 1s. So that would be a 2. So that would be a 1. I need a 1 on this branch, so that'll be a 1. That'll be a 1. And then I have nowhere for 1 in this column. So this is not 25, it's 36. So now we know it's 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay. So that is not a 3. These 2 digits are these 2. These 2 digits are these 2. Okay, what next? Because it ought to just be Sudoku now, albeit potentially challenging Sudoku. All right. There is an 8 in one of those 2. There's an 8 in one of those 3. So 8 in this row goes there or there. There is a 6. 6 here, 6 here. So 8 in this column, sorry, 6 in this column goes here or here. Now, if it were to go here, then that would put 6 in one of those 2, which would put 6 in one of those 2. Okay, that seems reasonable. Right, 7 is in one of those 2 there. 7 is in one of those 3, and I have a 7 in one of those 3, so in this column, 7 must go in one of those 2. In fact, that's a 3. So that's not 3, that's not 3. Um, Seven is in one of these two. 7 in one of those two and 7 in one of those two means that in this column, 7 is in one of those three. Not quite as restricted as I might hope, but right, if that's 7, that's 8, that's 7, that's 7. All right. These 4 digits are 2789, and that one's not a 2. Those aren't 7. That's not 8. These are 1, 2, 6, 7. No, not 6. These are 1, 2, 7, 9. That one's not a 2. That one's not a 7 or a 9. Okay, that's a 1, 2 pair. So that's not a 1. That's not a 2. So now one of those is a 2. In fact, one of those is a 1. Okay. These 3 digits must be 4, 6, 3, 4, 6. How does that help? Okay. Right. I have an 8 in one of those, and I have an 8 there. So that can't be an 8. That must be a 7. That must be an 8. And now that's not a 7. And so that's a 7. So that's a 9. That removes 9 from here. That makes one of these two 9. I have a 9 in one of those. I have a 9 in one of those, so in this column, a 9 must be here. So that's not 9. Oh, that 5 means that that's a 4. That would probably help. That 5 means that that's not a 5. None of these are 4. That 4 is looking down there. That's not a 4. I've got a 6 in one of those two and a 6 in one of those two. That can't be a 6. Where does the other 1, 2 go in this column? It must be there. That makes these 3, 4, 6. And that's not a 6. Okay, this 4 is looking back. That's an 8. That's a 4. That's a 6, 7 pair now, making that an 8. That 6, 7 pair removes 7 as a candidate here. And in fact, these are 1, 2, and 3 for the row. Okay. That's not 4. Okay. One of those is a 3 or a 4. So that gives us a virtual 1, 2, 3, 4 quad here. Or another way of looking at it is where do 7 and 8 go in this row? It's in those two cells, and that one can't be a 7. So that's the 7. That's an 8. That places an 8 here. That makes that the 6 because it displaced the 6. Those aren't 8s. That's an 8 here. Those are not 6s. One of those two must be. So those aren't 6. This is 5 or 9 by the column, but must be 9 by the row. So that resolves that. Okay. This must now be the 8, and that's a 7. One of these two must be a 6. So that's not a 6, and that is a 6. That is a 1, 2 pair by the box. That means that's not 1 or 2, that's 3 or 4. That gives me a 3, 4, 6 triple in this column, with a 6 definitely in one of those two, so that's not a 6. Um, 9 in this row only has one place. That's there. That's a 5. So that's not 5. Feel like I'm so close. This 7 makes that a 7. This is now a 1 or a 2 to complete the column. That gives me a 1, 2, 3 triple in the box. So this is 6 and 9. And I don't think I know the order. Okay. Five in this column is here or here. That's 1, 3, 4, and 6. So that's 1, 3, and 4, because 6 is there. I have a 2, 3 pair in the row. That makes that 9. That means that that's not 3. That 9 makes that 6, and that 9. That makes that a 6. And now that's 4 or 5 to complete the row. That gives me a 4, 5 pair. That gives me a 3 here. That is a 1, 2 pair. 3 comes out of there. This 3 means I need to have a 3 in one of those two, so that's not a 3. That's not 9. In fact, that 3 there makes that 2. That's 3, 2, 1, and 3 go in. That 1 makes this 2. This 1, this 2. 2 comes out of there. This 2 makes this a 1, this a 2. That's 3, that's 4, that's 1. 4 comes out of there and is now placed there. That's not 4. This 2 is looking up. That's 1, that's 2, that's 1. This is 4, 6, and 7 by the column, and is not a 6. So that's 4 or 7. And it's not a 4, that's a 7. Okay, that resolves my 6 and 7 here, the 6 and the 4 here. This is now 3, 4, or 5, but it's not a 4. So that's 3 or 5. All right. Three up here is looking here. That's a 4. That's a 3. That 4 looks down there. That's 5. That's 4, 6, and 5. That must be a 5. That's a 3, 4 pair, which we know the order of. This 5 is looking up. That's a 9. That's a 5. That's 9. That's 2 there, 1 there, and 2 there. This 5 makes this 3. This is 4. I've got 2 8s in this row because I mistyped that one. That should be a 9. That looks good. Yep, that's a 3. That's a 6. Not quite sure when I mistyped that, but that is a beautiful, beautiful puzzle. The amount of symmetry in there is very nice. This gave me a nice, easy little start, and then figuring out that this could not be a 25 sum because it would prevent one being placed in here was very clever. I really enjoyed that. Well, if you liked this solve, then please hit the like button, or you can subscribe to see some more. And I would love to hear your comments. I'm looking forward to next time. Be seeing you.